y'all, welcome to or welcome back to our very bookish channel, and welcome to probably one of the most exciting videos that we put out, and that is our most anticipated releases. In this video, if you couldn't tell by the title, we are talking about our most anticipated releases for this upcoming September and October.
Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of Most Anticipated. This time we're doing September and October 2025 releases that we are most anticipating, each of us. Sometimes we overlap. I love when we overlap. Actually, I love seeing the books that we're both eagerly anticipating. And as usual, I have a ton. Fall is definitely the time it's the big book season, and there are a lot I'm eagerly waiting on, and I don't have arcs for yet. At least a couple of them that I don't have arcs for yet. For those of you that don't know, an arc is an advanced reading copy. And speaking of, I'm going to start off on September 2nd. I just got it today from Entangled Publishing. It's called It Happened on a Sunday by Tracey Wolff. I have not read Tracey Wolff yet, and I believe she does YA science fiction fantasy. I don't know if I would particularly like those books. This seems to be a departure. It is a romance. I'm not sure, since I haven't read her, if she has done other romances, but this one kind of sounds like a Taylor Swift Travis love story, because it's about a pop star and it's about a football player that pretty much fall in love. I don't know if this will be something that I will particularly like, but I like to mix up what I'm reading. I do like to throw romances in to offset the horror and the psychological thrillers that I like to read. So I think I'm still going to give this one a shot and see, especially since they sent me the arc for it, and hopefully it will be good. Since it's coming out September 2nd, and that's not too far from now, I don't know if I'll get it read before that. I may not have an arc review on our channel, but I may end up talking about it once I read it when we do our quarterly review of all the books that we go over that aren't in vlogs. So stay tuned for that.
Just so y'all know, I am going to have to film this video over 2 different days. I just simply do not have enough time today to sit and go over all of the books for September and October that I'm anticipating, and I apologize for that, but I'm going to do all of September today, and then I'm going to do all of October tomorrow. So let's just get right into it. Starting off September 2nd, I want to let you all know Spider to the Fly is going to be released by J.H. Markert, and he is my absolute favorite horror author. I have loved all of his books, and I really enjoyed Spider to the Fly. Jen and I have read that book, and we have posted a review on it. So please, if you like horror books, or if you're looking for a spooky read for the upcoming fall/Halloween season, I highly recommend you check out his books, and I really want you to go read Spider to the Fly. It is one of my favorites.
September 2nd, we have a shout out to one that we've already read and we did a vlog on. Amanda can tag it in the video below, but it's Spider to the Fly by J.H. Markert. So happy book birthday to Spider to the Fly. Amanda and I are both really big fans of his. We got a chance to read this early. It is really good. It is not my favorite by him, but I would definitely recommend it. My favorite, I think, is still, I'm forgetting which one it's called, but I will put it on the screen just so you guys see what my favorite is by him. But if you like horror, if you like things that really creep you out, you'll definitely love him, and you should check out his new one.
Next book on September 2nd I want to talk about is Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. That is a book that I have been highly anticipating. I loved Divine Rivals, and the fact that this book takes place in the same world as Divine Rivals, just before Divine Rivals, I'm really excited to get into.
The next one is also on September 2nd, and this one is a new fiction hardcover book coming out, and it's called Buckeye, and it's by Patrick Ryan. It's an intimate portrait of small-town mid-century America, and they're calling it a must-read. I've heard a lot of buzz about this book. The writing is both straightforward and poetic, and the story is compelling, cathartic, and expertly crafted. This book is destined to be in the canon of great American novels. That is a huge, tall order to live up to. I don't know how quickly I'll be able to get to that one. Again, September 2nd is pretty close. I do have a physical copy of it, and I don't have it nearby. I forgot to grab it for the video, but it'll be on the screen for you to see. And I am looking forward to reading more fiction. I feel like this might be in the same vein. I love Anthony Doerr books, which is literary fiction. I have been, especially lately, wanting to read more fiction. We will see how I feel about it, and once I read it, it will be in a quarterly review.
This next book is a YA book, and I'm always a little cautious with YA books, but I wanted to throw this one in here because it sounded kind of cool. And this is Rivals of Sea and Sky by Marianne Morea, and I just think this book seems interesting. There's elemental magic, and I always kind of like the elemental magic books. You know, the books that have magic revolving around earth and sky and water. I just think, and fire, especially the fire. I just think that's really cool, kind of fun, and I don't see them very often. Like, you do see them, they do come up, but I don't see them real often. And this also takes place in a fae world, so it kind of follows the trope of you have two fae realms and they are fighting with each other. They're enemies, but you have the princess of one realm and the prince of another realm, and they team up and try to find some common ground and probably fall in love, and it just seemed kind of fun. I wanted to throw this one out there. I want to give it a try. It is by a smaller publisher called City Owl Press, and I'm always kind of looking for these little, you know, diamonds in the rough. I always like to find the books that no one's talking about but that are fantastic, and I think a lot of these indie publishers or indie authors can provide that, and I love finding those little, like I said, diamonds in the rough, so I want to give this book a try. Also following along with the indie publishers, there is a book called Thorn Season by Kiera Azar, and this book sounded interesting to me. It has a lot of the little like tropes and things that I look for and that I like. And this book, you're following Alyssa, and she has a special ability, a special power where she can use this, it's like a thread in her mind, but it can reach out and it can touch people, and it can help control people. It can make people do things. It can send them comfort, or it can send them horrors. And so because this power is so up to the person that wields it, it's very scary to the other people that don't have it. So she's hunted, and she's not supposed to have this power. And of course, you know, her life gets more complicated because she crosses paths with people that are seemingly, you know, wanting to take out people like her. It says on here, Shadow and Bone meets The Selection, and y'all know that I love Leigh Bardugo, who's the author of the Shadow and Bone series, and I have read The Selection a long time ago, and I was reading all like the YA dystopian series, so I enjoy both of those, so I think that this might be a good book. That's kind of what drew my attention to it. And also it does mention there is a love triangle, so if you like love triangles, I personally am not a big fan of love triangles, but sometimes they work and sometimes they can make the book more interesting and fun, so I want to put this one on my list.
On September 9th, it's not technically new, it's just coming out as a republished in a basically new package. It's going to be beautiful. I'll have it on the screen so you guys can see it. It's one of my favorite authors. I've read a few by her. It's Gabrielle Zevin. My favorite from her is Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow. I actually have it up on my shelf of a sprayed edged version of Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow. And this one is called Elsewhere. It is YA, which I don't typically read, but I am a big fan of hers. I've been wanting to read it, and I've just been putting it off. And now that it has this new beautiful edition, of course I'm going to buy it. And this one is an interesting plot. So it says, welcome to Elsewhere. The beaches are marvelous. It's quiet and peaceful. You can't get sick and you'll never get older. This is where 15-year-old Liz Hall ends up after she has died. It is a place so like Earth, yet completely different. Here, Liz will age backward from the day of her death until she becomes a baby and returns to Earth. So it's a very interesting concept. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it, but I love her writing, so I'm sure I will still enjoy it.
On September 9th, I have a book. This book sounds really cool to me. It's called House of Bane and Blood by Alexis L. Menard. So this book it combines a lot of things that have piqued my interest. So this book is about two mafia families that are fighting, and it takes place in a magical world. So it combines like mafia romance with fantasy. And I just think that sounds pretty cool. There's an arranged marriage, also the arranged marriage trope, if you all love the arranged marriage trope, which is very common in the mafia romance books, let's just be honest. But there's an arranged marriage between the son of one family and the daughter of another family. And so they are enemies to lovers, another trope that obviously comes with probably arranged marriage and mafia. But they are enemies. But then there is this figure that is terrorizing their city, and he goes by the name The Collector. So it seems like they kind of grow close and team up to go after this guy that is plaguing their city that they fight over. It just sounded fun, and it combines mafia romance with fantasy. It is a duet, so this is the first book of two, and I thought I would like to try to give it a read.
September 9th is also the date of a book I've already read. I had an electronic arc of it, and it's by Debbie Gibson. She's a pop star of the 80s and 90s, I guess you can say. And this one is called Eternally Electric. I gave it 5 stars. I enjoyed reading everything that she talked about, from how she rose to fame, everything that happened to her once she was really famous, and then how her career has kind of transitioned after she was that teen pop star and everything else that she has done. There's a lot in this book about personal journey and how she's had to overcome different ailments and pain, and a lot of just life lessons, I would say. And she talks about her family and friends. I really enjoyed it. If you guys like biographies, I think this one is a really interesting one. I was supposed to do an ARC review and I didn't have time for that. I don't know if I'll have time to post one before that, but I definitely would recommend it, especially if you like biographies.
On September 9th, there is a horror book released, and I do have a few horror books on this list, but this first one is called The Burial Tide. This sounded cool to me because it kind of, the setting reminded me of Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney, which is a book that I really liked. You're following a woman who wakes up buried alive, and she gets out and she discovers that she is on this island. And this island is full of kind of weird people to her. They are odd. They're behaving strangely. She thinks it's weird. She's also trying to figure out what happened to her because she has no memories of before she woke up. And these people on this island don't want her to figure that out. Like they keep like trying to stop her from realizing what's going on. So it is a horror book. It sounded pretty cool. I am really actually more excited. The more I think about this book, the more excited I get for it. Horror books can be hit or miss with me. A lot of them have let me down. Really cool concepts, but then the books have let me down. So I really hope that this is not one of those, but I feel like it's a perfect read for the upcoming fall and Halloween season.
The biggest one that I have been waiting for is also on September 9th. It's probably the book I'm most anticipating of all the books I'm going to talk about. I am a huge Dan Brown fan. I love Da Vinci Code. I love Angels and Demons. And this one is called Secret of Secrets. It's Robert Langdon is back. He has been the main protagonist in all the books that I've read by Dan Brown. And he's a professor of symbology. And he goes to Prague to attend a groundbreaking lecture by Catherine Solomon. She's about to publish an explosive book about the nature of human consciousness. A brutal murder happens and Catherine disappears along with the manuscript. And if you guys aren't familiar with Dan Brown, his books tend to, obviously he's always looking at points in history and deciphering different clues and symbols and mysteries, basically. And there's always this larger element to his books that I don't necessarily want to talk about because it kind of ruins the end of Angels and Demons and Da Vinci Code if you haven't read it. But I remember one of the reasons why I loved his books, the revelations at the end, I was not expecting. And it's almost like a twist, I would say, and maybe that's why I really like him. He also has really short chapters. They're very action-oriented, and his books go very quick. So I am highly anticipating this. I cannot wait till it comes out. I am going to be getting it on day one, starting it on day one, because I have, ever since he announced it back in like January, I could not wait until this book comes out. I wish I had an arc. I don't think they even did arcs for this one, but definitely reading this one as soon as it comes out.
On September 9th, there is a book coming out that I do have an arc for, and that is Exiles by Mason Coile. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think I'm going to get to this before the release date, so I'm not going to be able to do an arc review, but I am anticipating this book release because it is a horror sci-fi book, which sounds very intriguing to me. And it says this is a locked room mystery that takes place on Mars. So super excited about that. This is the author of a book called William, where he wrote a book about AI. And I think it's also a horror book. So he likes, it seems like this author likes like the darker, scary, exploring like scientific or futuristic things. And that just sounds cool to me. So I am highly anticipating this one and I can't wait to read it. I don't think I'm going to get an arc review out, but I do want to read the book in the near future.
On September 16th, it's called Exiles by Mason Coile. It's a terrifying locked room mystery set on a remote outpost on Mars. The human crew sent to prepare the first colony on Mars arrives to find the new base half destroyed and the 3 robots sent to set it up in disarray. The machines have formed alliances, chosen their own names, and picked up some disturbing beliefs. One of them is also missing. I have dabbled in like Mars science fiction horror the past couple years, and there's something about it that really intrigues me, and I have really liked reading. So that one I think spoke to me for that reason, and I don't have an arc for that. But when that comes out, I'm probably going to end up either listening to the audio or picking it up.
On September 16th, there is going to be an epic fantasy release called The Sleep of Empires by David Annandale. And this book sounded cool to me. There is a fairly lengthy description. I'm not going to go through it all, but basically this is a world of elves, and Tatiana is an elf who is put in an arranged marriage that she doesn't want, and she tries to get out of it. And of course, while she is living her life, she meets this man who also has this elf. He's an elf man. She meets a man. He is also looking for answers because he wants to know about his past, and he has a connection to the crown somehow. While all this is going on, it seems like there's a magical book that appears. This book contains a lot of knowledge that certain people don't want out. So I don't know, it just sounded like a fun adventure, typical epic fantasy time, and I'm here for that.
This one's called Bad Things Happened in This Room by Marie Still. It's a chilling psychological horror that descends into madness where the walls whisper and secrets are buried in the garden. Perfect for fans of Yellow Wallpaper, which is by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I'm a huge fan of that book, and I would actually say it's like a short story. And this one explores motherhood, grief, and the thin line between reality and delusion. In this haunting psychological horror, Willow's life has become a fever dream, her days lost in a twisted loop where time no longer flows as it should. Is she held captive by her husband Liam's iron rules or by the insidious darkness of her own mind? And those are the type of horror and psychological thrillers I think that are the most terrifying, that you don't know if it's someone just going insane and the reality that they think is real is not really real. And those to me are the most terrifying books, and it does sound like that might be what's going on, but we'll see. But that one comes out September 16th.
September 16th, He Sees You When You're Sleeping by Alta Henley. Now, this book is not something typical that I would always go to, but I am looking for holiday reads that aren't holiday romance. Your typical Hallmark holiday romance reads. I want to read books in December around Christmas time and lots of snow and just, feel all the vibes and get in the Christmas mood. But I'm not a big fan of the Christmas romance, the fluffy romance, the holiday romance. So I'm always looking for Christmas books that are Christmas mysteries or murders and that are not, you know, your typically fun, fluffy romance. So I have this book on the list. This book reminds me a little bit of Lights Out. Yes, the skull, you know, the covers are very similar with the skulls, but the description of this book as well. So in this book, you're following a woman who is single and dating in New York City, and she's kind of interested in two different guys. One of the guys she's interested in is a firefighter. The firefighter is a guy that has been kind of stalking her. He's knows more about her than she knows, and he's a little more into her than she is to him. And like I said, it's just giving me Lights Out vibes, and I really did enjoy Lights Out. And I want to thank everyone that promoted that book in social media, because we read that for our viral books series, and I wouldn't have read that book otherwise, I gotta be honest. So shout out to everyone talking about that book when it was popular, because it got me to read it, and it's also made me interested in this book because I feel like it could give the same vibes. Also, September 16th, I have The Vanishing Place by Zoe Rankin, and this is a kind of, it seems like an eerie, scary, I don't want to say it's a horror. It's a murder mystery for sure, and it takes place in New Zealand in the remote bush. They call it the New Zealand bush. So out in the wild of New Zealand, which is a very interesting and cool setting in my mind. Also very dark and dangerous. So I am really excited to get into this book and see what happens. This is a new author to me as well, so excited about that. My last book for September 16th is The Whistler by Medina, and this is a horror book, and it sounds so interesting. You're following Henry, who, it doesn't say specifically he's a social media influencer, but he does post ghost hunting videos and has become very popular. So I'm assuming that means he's on social media, and his life is going wonderful. All of a sudden, there is an accident, and he becomes a paraplegic, and he is haunted by ghosts, and his girlfriend thinks that he's just being, you know, dramatic because of the incident, and he's dealing with PTSD, and she's brushing it off, but he knows he's being haunted. So I don't know, this just sounded kind of a cool concept and very eerie, very scary. Again, another book that I'm excited to read during the spooky season.
The next one, we start on September 23rd, and for this one, I haven't actually read a book by this author, and it's Ian McEwan. I have seen the movie Atonement. He had written the book Atonement, and I've heard so many good things. As I've said, I do like literary fiction. Why I haven't read him, I'm not sure. But the plot for this one really grabbed my interest. So it's called What We Can Know. And it's the best-selling author of Atonement, which I already said, a genre-bending new novel. And I think if you guys have watched here before, you know that as soon as something says it's genre-bending, I tend to be interested in it. A genre-bending new novel full of secrets and surprises. And it takes place in two different time periods. One is in 2014. At a dinner for close friends, renowned poet Francis Blendy honors his wife with a poem on her birthday called A Corona for Vivian. For generations to come, people will speculate about the message of this poem, the only copy of which goes missing, leading to an enduring mystery. And then the other time is 2119. Just over 100 years in the future, much of the Western world has been submerged by rising seas following a catastrophic nuclear accident. Thomas Metcalf, a lonely scholar, longs for the early 21st century as he chases the ghost of one poem, A Corona for Vivian. This one really made me feel like it sounded like an Anthony Doerr book. I wasn't trying to pun there, but I adored Cloud Cuckoo Land. That book got me. And what's funny is I originally didn't want to read it. It's like 900 pages. And it was one of those books that just grasped me, and it's taking place in three different time periods. It took place in like 1500s Constantinople, February 2020, and a point in the future you don't know. And the way Anthony Doerr brings those three different time periods and characters together, and you see what ties them all together at the end, was just, oh, it's such a good book. I feel like I don't reread books a lot, but I have been wanting to reread that book because I love how much I love that book. So yeah, it makes me think like it might be one of those. That's a tall order, but we'll see.
My first book for September 23rd that I want to talk about is a book I'm really excited for, and I do have the ARC, and that is The Spellcaster by Jaymin Eve. And this book sounds so cool. It's about a young woman who discovers at the age of 22 she's a witch, and she gets accepted into this magical college to harness her powers. And it says this is an intense enemies to lovers romantasy, and I kind of don't know much more than that. I just love going into books blind, and this seems to me like a book I'm gonna love based on the fact that it takes place in a college or a school type setting where there's probably some kind of competition. Enemies to lovers, so I assume she meets a boy that she's gonna be, you know, competing with in school, and they end up teaming up to work together for some reason. And she's a witch, so there's magic and magical abilities involved, and it just sounds fun. It sounds like a good time. It also, you know, with the witchy vibes and stuff, sounds like it's very appropriate for Halloween season, and the cover is so cool. I just love that cover. Love it. What more do you need? What more do you need? This book is gonna get read. Hopefully maybe I can read this. This isn't one of my priority books, so hopefully I can read this before it comes out. Maybe do an ARC review for you guys, but I can't promise that because I'm a very busy lady.
Still on September 23rd, I have one called Last One Seen by Rebecca Canner. It's a new paperback. There was a quote that described it and says, "There are 3 people I suspect of killing her, and I'm one of them." A woman fights her own mind and memory to understand how she got here. The passenger seat of a car speeding away from a murder scene. In this riveting dual timeline psychological thriller, perfect for fans of Riley Sager, nothing is as it seems. That one sounds right up my psychological thriller alley. I have enjoyed Riley Sager, so I definitely feel like I'm going to try that one too.
Another book on September 23rd, y'all, is another horror book. And I swear, when I was making my list, I did not realize how many horror books I was going to have. But it is a horror book, and it's called Body of Water by Adam Godfrey. And this book just sounded different than anything I've read. You're following a man named Henry who has lost his wife, and they have a teenage daughter who obviously has lost her mother, and they're grieving, and he wants to try to connect with her and just be with her, support her. So he decides to take her on a trip, and while they're on this trip, they're eating in this diner. From what I can tell in the description, the diner is getting robbed, and while in the process of this robbery, there is a body of water that is encircling this diner, and the body of water is killing people or hurting people. I don't know. I know it sounds weird, but also kind of cool. My curiosity with this book is just piqued. Like, this could be a really, really good book, or it could not, but I feel like no matter what, I'm interested enough that I want to read it. It's released September 23rd, so maybe y'all should put this one on your radar.
Moving on to September 30th, I have a romance paperback, and it's a Christmas theme, which is also funny. It's called Christmas People by Iva-Marie Palmer. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston meets Hallmark with a dash of sass and a sprinkle of sexiness in this sparkling Christmas rom-com with a speculative twist. I mean, that is a lot of words. That's a mouthful. Some people are Christmas people, but Jill Jacobs is most certainly not. She hasn't been ever since her hometown love broke her heart on Christmas Eve 3 years ago. After that, Jill moved to LA to pursue her dream of becoming a screenwriter. She hasn't been home in years to avoid her ex, but this winter she finds herself back in drab suburban Illinois for the holidays. It does kind of sound like a Hallmark movie with a little extra thrown in there, so I think it'll be interesting to offset some of the darker things that I'm reading.
On to the last day in September 30th. This next book, I had a couple of different release dates for this book, so I think I'm getting some release dates for maybe, you know, in the UK or something, but I am anticipating A Murder in Paris by Matthew Blake. This says it comes out September 30th, so that's what I believe the release date is. This sounded cool because you're following a woman named Olivia, and she is a memory expert. So not sure what that means. And the description isn't extremely clear, but apparently she can maybe analyze people's memories. She's going along working as this memory expert, and she gets a call that her grandmother has a memory of murdering someone in Paris. So she flies out to Paris to meet up with her grandmother and kind of figure out what's going on. And I don't know, it sounded cool. The description seemed like the book is a lot more layered than, I'm really simplifying it. So the book seemed a lot more complicated and layered than what I'm talking about in this moment, but I think that it sounded fun. I love the layered mysteries where you're kind of like in other parts of the world, like you're going to London and you're going to Paris and you could be going somewhere else. I don't know. I think those are really cool, like all the international settings, because you're learning about other cities, and especially if the author is one that does include lots of layers and details, I think those are cool. So I'm anticipating this one, and if you're in for a mystery book this fall, this might be a good one to pick up.
We're still on September 30th, the October film Haunt by Michael. I can't read my writing, but it'll be on the screen. It's a new hardcover. It's horror movie meets the scope and emotion of Stephen King in this heart-pounding magnetic tour de force about a woman pulled into a cult horror film that is determined to have a sequel. I'm not sure if this is one of the ones I hesitated putting on the list because I didn't really like the book Horror Movie. I do love Stephen King. So when they wrote Stephen King, it's what kind of kept me from taking it off the list. But I don't know. I feel like I keep reading. I had a book recently that I read where they all end up redoing a horror film that they had done years ago, and there were secrets about it, and they didn't really, I feel like it's a common trope that there was like this cult horror movie, time goes by, something crazy happened during that shoot, time goes by, and they end up doing like a reboot, or something brings them all together again to bring up whatever happened and maybe find the truth. But I don't know. I don't feel like I've read anything that has really made me think like I loved this book. So I don't know why I keep returning to the same trope, but maybe I will try this one. Maybe I won't. We'll see.
Next on September 30th, I have another horror book. Surprise, surprise. This is called The Mean Ones by Tatiana Schlote Bane. And I'm just gonna read the blurb about this one because I don't wanna mess it up. In this horror novel about a woman who survived cult killings as a child and is striving to be normal, but a spontaneous trip into the woods and the voices in her head keep pulling her to the dark side. So that sounded cool. You've got a woman who has survived a very traumatic experience as a child, and she's kind of trying to reinvent her life and live normal, but she's hearing things in her head, and she goes out in the woods. Sounds pretty creepy to me, and it's another one of those that I'm kind of like, this could be bad, but it could also be really good. So my curiosity is piqued with this one, and I have it on my list for the upcoming fall.
All right, we're still on September 30th. This is a new paperback. It's called The Mad Wife by Megan Church, a haunting exploration of identity, motherhood, and the suffocating expectations that will leave you questioning the lives we build and the lives we live. That sounds like a lot. They called it hysteria. She called it survival. Lulu Mayfield has spent the last 5 years molding herself into the perfect 1950s housewife. Despite the tragic memories that haunt her and the weight of exhausting expectations, she keeps her husband happy, the household running, and the gelatin salads the talk of the neighborhood. After her second child, her carefully crafted life begins to unravel. There's also a lot of books I feel about mothers and motherhood and how that mentality and for moms being in that role ends up making them unravel in some way, shape, or form. And I haven't read too many. I know there's one that I've had on my list forever, and I believe I still have it on my TBR behind me, called Push. My friend Hannah really likes that book, and I don't know how much I really enjoy that trope, but something about this made me put it on. I think it was more of the 1950s. I had studied Sylvia Plath in the Bell Jar when I was in college, and something about that 1950s and how women were treated does still intrigue me. So it's not the motherhood portion, it's just how women were treated during that time and kind of put into this mold and even drugged to be able to do that role. And I thought that might be an interesting aspect to that book. So that would be the reason why I would pick it up.
My last book for September is a romantasy called Bitten by Jordan Stephanie Gray. This book comes out on September 30th. And I don't know. This book, it's intriguing to me. You're following a woman who is attacked by these werewolves, and I think some of the people she's with are actually murdered, but she's just bitten, and they take her and she turns into a werewolf, and it kind of joins their ranks. But even though she joins them and she's part of their pack now, she still wants revenge for what happened to her family or the people that she was with when she was attacked. So, you know, this sound, I mean, very, you know, kind of a common trope, okay, the whole getting revenge but then falling in love kind of thing. It's kind of common, but it sounded kind of cool. And, you know, werewolves, direwolves, like they seem to be gaining in popularity. I did read Direbound and really liked that book, and I have seen more of like the Wolff shifter kind of romance books out there becoming more popular. So I feel like this is gaining in popularity, and I am curious enough to want to read this book. If y'all haven't noticed, like, I get very curious about books, and in my head I'm like, okay, if I don't like it, I'll just DNF it, right? Like, no big deal. But then when I start reading the book, it gets hard to DNF even if I'm not liking it. So I don't know. You would think I would learn. This could be a popular book. It could really gain some momentum and popularity when it releases. So it's one that I do have on my radar that I'm watching and will probably read. It's definitely going in the most anticipated TBR jar. So if I pull it out of that jar, then I'll definitely read it. But it is one that I am, you know, watching for fall.
The next one is also still on September 30th. It's called After Midnight: 13 Tales for the Dark Hours by Daphne du Maurier. And it's a hardcover. There's an introduction by Stephen King, and it's a stunning new hardcover collection of Daphne's darkest stories. I do really like her dark stories, but I haven't read Rebecca. I've only read some of her short stories years ago, and I don't even know which ones are in this one. So I still need to check this out and see if it's exactly what I would want to read. But it's one of those types of books that I think it's perfect for the fall and Halloween, because you can read one or two. You don't have to read it cover to cover. And we'll see, because if you guys know, me and Amanda aren't the biggest fans of short stories either. So we'll see. The ones I tend to like are the ones that are in that darker realm, because there are some, like The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, I would consider a short story, and I love The Lottery. I love Shirley Jackson. So we'll see. It might be something that I like. I am going to at least check it out. We've made it to October. I do feel I have the same amount that I normally do, which is a lot. But I do feel like I'm also going quicker than I normally do, and I hope that's a good thing. First, I have one by Geneva Rose. It sounds really interesting. It's a new paperback called Dating After the End of the World. I enjoy Geneva Rose. I have read several by her now. I just read her republished first fiction story called The Girl I Was. I'd even say it's like speculative fiction. She normally writes thrillers, and I have enjoyed her thrillers a lot. The Perfect Marriage is one of them. She had to follow up The Perfect Divorce. So this one, I don't know what category I put it in, but it kind of sounds science fiction-y almost. Science fiction meets romance, maybe. It's about Casey Pearson. She grew up with a doomsday prepping father. At 18, tired of living an unconventional life, she left home, vowing never to return. More than a decade later, a mysterious viral outbreak changes everything, including the people it infects, turning them into zombie-like creatures. It's the end of the world, and no one saw it coming. Well, except for Casey's father. Once she's back home, she's hunkered down with a group of survivors, including her arch nemesis, Blake Morrison, the high school bully who made Casey's high school years a living hell. So she ends up in this situation where there's this zombie outbreak. They are all trying to survive, and there's a romance going on, basically. So it sounded really interesting. It sounded different. I thought it would be something that I definitely might like, so I have it on my list, especially since it's Geneva Rose.
All right, y'all, it is the next day, and I am so sorry to have to break up this video in a couple of days, but you know, life. Okay, so where were we? October. We are starting in October. So October 7th, I have Academy of Outcast by Larry Corella. I think that's how you say his name, probably not, but that's my best shot at saying the name. And that is the first book in the Academy of Outcast series. I do have the arc of that book. Hold on, let me grab it so I can show you. Okay, so this is what the cover looks like. So pretty cool. I am excited to read it. Never read or heard of this author before. So, you know, another new to me author that is not new to y'all because I love finding and discovering new authors. And this book was described as a darker shade of magic meets a deadly education. Now, I have read A Darker Shade of Magic. That's by V.E. Schwab. I really liked it. Only read the first book in that series, but it was a series that I did want to continue. So Oz is your main character, and he wants to be a master mage. However, he does not have the skills or the money to go to the college that is required in order to learn to become this master mage. So what does he do? He decides to fake his death to get out of his obligations that he owes somebody, and then secretly travel to the city that these colleges are in to try to get into the college. Everything seems to be going okay until there is a murder that's pinned on him. People think that he murdered this ambassador, and then the story picks up from there. So that just sounds really fun. I love the magic part. I love the fact that he decided to fake his own death to get out of some obligations and live the life that he wants to. I think it's super fun that there is a murder pinned on him, and it just seems like this is going to be a good time. It also seems like it's going to be a little bit of a darker fantasy book because of the cover and some of the concepts in the book, but I am so excited to read it. Hopefully I get it read. There's just a lot of books I need to catch up on. I'm so far behind y'all not being able to read books this summer. There have books that have been released that I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that was released already. I really need to read that. So I'm feeling very, very behind and hope that I will get caught up. But this is a book that is on my radar for fall. And since I have the arc, maybe I get to it. I don't know, no promises. But if I do, of course, I will do an arc review for you guys.
Moving on to October 7th, a huge shout out to Frida McFadden and The Intruder. It comes out in hardcover. Me and Amanda have already read it and loved it. Spoiler alert, I guess, for how we felt about it. She can tag the video down below so you guys can check out our thoughts on it. Definitely recommend it. Love Frida. If you haven't tried Frida and you like psychological thrillers, I do think you should check her out. Also on October 7th is Murder Most Haunted by Emma Mason. An unforgettable heroine is faced with an unbelievable crime in this snarky, charming, locked room mystery that asks, would you rather be snowed in with a ghost or a murderer? Midge McEwan is about to retire and is given a gift, a ticket to a haunted house tour at an isolated mansion with a group of misfits. The guests soon realize the house has a mind of its own, and then a murder happens. Of course it does. A blizzard has trapped them, and the house's dark secrets start to surface. Again, a little different sounding, so I, of course, was drawn to it. I think it might be really an interesting new psychological thriller-ish. It sounds like it might have some humor in it too, which I love.
Another title releasing on October 7th is House of Dragons by K.A. Lind. This is the author of The Wren in the Holly Library, and I liked that book. I think that after I read it, I like it more now than after I initially ended it, after talking with Jen, and I don't know. This author has been putting out all kinds of books. I think there is sort of a prequel series to The Wren in the Holly Library that has come out from this author, and then this is a new YA series coming out. It is a fantasy book. It's about a half-fae female that teams up with a cursed prince. And the description was giving me fantasy, but dystopian vibes. And y'all know that I used to really like reading the YA dystopian. When Hunger Games came out, and I read those books like, oh my gosh, probably over a decade ago, I was just wanting more and more and more. I read all kinds of YA series. I've read Neil Shusterman's series, Unbound or Unwind. I can't remember the title of the series, but those are the names of some of the books. Of course, I read Divergent. I've read The Selection. I've read a lot. And even though I've kind of outgrown it and it's not something that's been of interest of me lately, I still have a place in my heart for dystopian series, and the description of this was giving me dystopian vibes. Plus, I've read this author before, and again, a solid book, so this one's on the list.
Also on October 7th is a new hardcover, and it's science fiction. It's called Hole in the Sky by Daniel H. Wilson. And there was a quote that says, "Hole in the Sky is mind-bending." So of course, I'm going to want to read it. Indigenous knowledge collides with science fiction in a thrilling page-turner. On the Great Plains of Oklahoma and the heart of the Cherokee Nation, a strange atmospheric disturbance is noticed by Jim Hardgray, a down-on-his-luck single father trying to reconnect with his teenage daughter. A riveting thriller in the most creative tradition of extraterrestrial fiction. Something about science fiction is definitely getting my interest lately, so that's another reason why I wanted to read that one.
All right, I am really excited for this next book because it hits so many things that I look for in books, so many tropes, so many scenarios, so many things that this book just sounds like it's something I'm gonna love. And that's The Ordeals by Rachel Greenlaw. This book has been described as a magical college with death games, a murder mystery, and a seriously twisty plot and steamy romance. Say more. Say more. Sophia is trying to escape from the clutches of her uncle. She finds out there's a college outside of his control, but to get in, she must compete with other students trying to get into this college. Her magic is weak, but she teams up with the powerful Alden Locke. I think that's how you say his name, to not only get into the college, but to stay alive. So that is a little like my summary of the description. The description has more details, but that's just a little my summary of it. And I just thought that this book, there's so many things in this book description that I liked. I couldn't not put it on the list because I just feel like this is a good book for me.
The next one is, I have a physical copy, obviously. It's called The Hitchhikers by Chevy Stevens. Comes out October 7th. I read Chevy Stevens a while ago. Like, it was 10 years ago, a while ago. And I read Still Missing, which I gave 4 stars to, and another one called Never Knowing, which I gave 5 stars to. And for me, 10 years ago, I was a very harsh grader. I think I got a little less harsh as I got older, and I'm not sure why. But that's huge that I gave it one of her books 5 stars. And this one is about, in the summer of 1976, Alice and Tom set out on the remote Canadian highways in their new RV, hoping to heal their broken hearts after a devastating tragedy. Then they meet 2 young hitchhikers down on their luck and offer them a ride. But Simon and Jenny aren't what they seem. A chilling, twist-laden ride till the final page. Obviously, twisty is gonna get me. I definitely want to read this, and I'm hoping to do an ARC review since I have the physical copy.
So October 14th, this next book coming out, I don't know a lot about, I'm not gonna lie. What brought my attention to this book is the author combination, okay? This is called Remain by Nicholas Sparks, romance author, and M. Night Shyamalan, horror author, who is, and I think he also produces movies, horror movies. So that combination right there, I just thought that is really interesting. So the description says it's a supernatural love story. That's all I know, and that's all I want to know, because I feel like this is the type of book you need to just go in blind. I'm just gonna trust these authors. I'm really oddly curious about their combination. and then supernatural love story. So you're going to have the supernatural, scary M. Night Shyamalan horror combined with Nicholas Sparks' deep emotional love stories. So that's all I know, and that was enough for me to put it on my list and look for this when it releases.
October 14th. I was on the fence for this one too because I don't typically read Nicholas Sparks. I feel there's something about it. It's almost like too schmaltzy, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It just seems like it's too schmaltzy. It's called Remain, and it's not just him. It's one of the reasons why I want to read it. But he teamed up with the famous director of ultimate twisty horror, I guess you would say, twisty thriller films, M. Night Shyamalan. I'm probably butchered his name. I have no idea how to say his name.
Night. Oh, yes, M. Night Shyamalan.
Shyamalan, that's what I said, yes.
But it's considered a supernatural love story. It's coming out in a hardcover. It's a one-of-a-kind novel that grapples with the supernatural mysteries of life, death, and human connection. An unprecedented collaboration. A New York architect, Tate Donovan, is struggling after his sister's death and after revelations from her on her deathbed that she could see spirits. And she claims that it runs in the family too. He encounters a young woman named Ren who challenges every assumption he has about his logical and controlled world. And I have a feeling he'll end up seeing, like, I almost feel like it might be predictable where he ends up seeing a spirit or Ren is the spirit. And I feel like sometimes that's why I don't necessarily read those books, because if it's too predictable, it's just not fun. And I don't know, but we'll see. I have some interest just because I've really enjoyed the films by M. Night
Shyamalan.
I am drawn to it because of that. We'll see.
Another book that I'm excited for that's releasing October 14th is Conform by Ariel Sullivan. This book has been on my radar for a long time. I found it in Edelweiss months and months and months ago, and I kind of was a little bit weary about it because it says there's a love triangle, and even Veronica Roth wrote a promotion of the book, and it says a love triangle that you will be picking a side, switching sides, switching back again, and that's not usually something that I like in books. I'm not a fan of love triangles, so that made me a little bit hesitant, but the rest of the story just sounds amazing. It is a dystopian book, and I am again going to read the blurb. I really try not to read the blurbs, but there's just some books, y'all, that I feel like I cannot summarize the description for you. So I'm just going to read you the little description at the top. It says, in the far future, a young woman finds herself torn between two loves and two sides of a rebellion boiling under the surface in the first novel of a sweeping dystopian romance series. So feels like there's lots of sides and there's a woman in the middle of it, probably two loves on each side, I'm guessing, and she's got to make some hard decisions here. But I don't know. I think this novel sounds cool. I do like the cover of it. It's very simple, but I feel like that cover is going to be something that has a lot of meaning once you read the book, and you will understand it a lot more. Obviously, there's two sides. There's like there's a picture up here, but the top looks like a city on the top with the sun, and then a reflection of the city on the bottom upside down with the moon at the bottom. So it looks like those might be representing the two different sides that she has to choose from. So I don't know, but very interested in this book and finding out what is going on in this book. And hopefully this is a dystopian series that I will like.
The next one I also have October 14th, and it's Conform by Ariel Sullivan. I believe I put this in the last TBR video that we had because I've been wanting to try this book. It's considered science fiction romance. It's coming out in hardcover. In the far future, one woman finds herself torn between two loves and two sides of a rebellion boiling under the surface. First novel of a sweeping dystopian romance series. I thought it would be interesting to try, but I've been a little behind on my reading, and things have been coming up that have taken my time and attention away from what I had been planning to do. I did get the new Sophie Cousins electronic arc, and of course I had to drop everything and read that, We also had read the new Frida McFadden. We got electronic arcs for that. And of course I had to drop everything and read that. So it's been for good reasons that we're dropping things. But I do plan on still reading this, and I hope to do an arc review, but we'll see. We'll see what comes up, because obviously I already said on September 9th, I'll be dropping everything and reading Dan Brown. You know, bookish problems. It's a rough life.
The next book on my list is A Scar in the Bone by Sophie Jordan. This is the second book in A Fire in the Sky series. Now, did I love A Fire in the Sky? No. I felt like that was a third of a book. I mean, I read a lot of fantasy novels, and this idea for this book, let me summarize it real quick. You're following a young woman who's a whipping girl for a princess, and there's a really strong warrior that has been fighting on behalf of the king, and they've nicknamed him Beast of the Borderlands because he's a beast, y'all. So he comes back, and for his reward, he wants to marry the princess, and the king and the princess don't want that to happen, so they trick him into marrying the whipping girl, whose name is Tamsin. And that sets up the start of this story and this love that blossoms between the Beast of the Borderlands and Tamsin. And I just felt like the whole first book of Fire in the Sky was usually the 1/3 of a book that I normally read. Like, all of the things that happened typically take place in 1/3 of the longer fantasy books that I like to read. Now, since this is a series, the story is continuing. I want to continue the story. But like, my expectations of this one are a little like this, because I want more. There needs to be more in the second book. There needs to be more things happening, more things going on, more progression of the storyline. I don't want this to be like a trilogy where it's actually one book and then they've just broke it up into a trilogy. There's trilogies and there's books where each book is a standalone book and it can stand on its own, and then you continue the story in further books. But this book felt like it's going to be one big story, but then they've just chunked it up into, 2 or 3. I don't know. I really don't know how long this series is supposed to be, but they've chunked it up into several books. And I don't really like that. I like to have a full, complete story in a book. And then maybe there's a tiny cliffhanger, a tiny something that you can roll over into the second book and keep the story going that way. But I like each book to have its own kind of storyline. So, we'll see, but the first book didn't take very long to read, and I think that if the second book is about the same length, or the writing is just as good, then I feel like I'll be able to read the second book very quickly and see if this is going to be a series worth continuing.
Speaking of dropping things and reading, I also got an electronic copy of the next book I'm going to talk about, and I did start it. It's on my tablet. And I do tend to take breaks when I'm reading on my tablet because I do prefer physical books. But it's The Things Gods Break by Abigail Owen. It comes out October 21st. It's the follow-up to Games Gods Play. And I really immensely enjoyed Games Gods Play. I am a fan of mythology, so that's one huge reason why. But this one continues with Lyra. She survived the Crucible, but now she faces an even more dangerous test. A deadly race against time begins in Tartarus. I am super excited to be reading it, and I will be doing an arc review. I am hoping Amanda gets it as well so that we can do a joint arc review. I don't know. As of right this minute, I don't think she has gotten it. But I am over the moon. I can't wait to keep reading it. And of course, dropping everything to read it.
All right, we are all done with October 14th, and we're moving on to October 21st. And the first book I want to talk about is The Things Gods Break by Abigail Owen. This is the second book of a series. The first book was The Games Gods Play, and I really liked the whole story. That book, I was entertained the whole time. Jen, I think, got more interested in the story as it got closer to the end, but the cliffhanger at the end of that book has me dying for this book, The Things Gods Break. I cannot wait to get my hands on a copy of that book. If you're not familiar with the first book, you're following a woman who gets caught up in competing in these games that the gods orchestrate every so many years. I can't remember exactly if it was every 100 years or every year, but normally Hades doesn't participate in these games. He just lets the other gods do it and he doesn't participate. But this year he participates and he develops a relationship with the main female character. And that's basically what you're following along in the book. Of course, there's a lot more to that. I'm not giving you any spoilers. So there's the games that they play. That's really fun. And then the ending has a big twist. So really looking forward to this one. When I finished the Games Gods Play last year, I immediately was like, oh my God, I need the second book right now. But we didn't get it then, of course. So now is the time it's coming out, October 21st. I can't wait.
The next one is also October 21st. It's called The Midnight Knock by John Fram. It's a locked room mystery meets white knuckle horror in this mind-bending thriller. There it goes again, mind-bending. Where strangers must survive a deadly night in a remote Texas motel. So we'll see. I don't know what that one's going to be about. I am willing to at least try it.
On October 21st, there's a book coming out, and it's something I've read a little bit of, but just not really a lot. I'm not well versed in this subgenre, I guess. It is a subgenre of romance, and this is Huntsman by Naima Simone. And this book's a mafia romance. Honestly, what has got me kind of interested in mafia romances is One Cursed Rose. I just loved that book. And I just wanted more of it. One Cursed Rose is fantasy, so there is that fantasy twist, that I love, but it is kind of a mafia romance. So that's what's got me thinking like, oh, maybe I'll like these. Basically, you're following a young woman, and I think the way the description makes you believe, it doesn't specifically say this, but I get the impression that she was the daughter of very powerful parents that ran their criminal mafia empire. Their parents are gone out of the picture, not really sure how or why or what, and her aunt has sort of taken control of the mafia empire and disowned this young woman. So she has no choice but to start working with another family, and when her aunt finds that out, she sends an assassin after this young woman to take her out completely. The only problem is she kind of gets a thing for the assassin. So that kind of sounds like a standard typical mafia romance, sort of forced proximity, not an arranged marriage, which that one is also a common trope in mafia romance. It doesn't seem like it's an arranged marriage, but it did sound fun and interesting, so I thought I would throw this one on the list and put it on y'all's radar if mafia romance is something that you're also a little interested in. Okay, this next book is also one that's a little bit hard for me to describe, so I made some notes here. I'm going to be looking on my notes. And on October 21st, The Lost Reliquary by Lindsay L. And this is part of a series, Divine Thrall #1, first book in the series. And it says Liz is a warrior that is fighting on behalf of a goddess, and she's warring with other gods, and it seems like, per the description, that the other gods have fallen and she is the one remaining. So Liz was a warrior for this goddess, and she has been dedicated, but she does want her freedom. So there is an assassination attempt on this goddess, and Liz lies, L-Y-S is how the character's name, L-Y-S. I'm just saying Liz, but I might be mispronouncing it. But Liz sees the opportunity to finally escape. The only problem is she has to team up with Nolan to find a reliquary that's powerful enough to take down a god. What that means, I really don't know. This book just seemed fun. I'm really liking like the things gods break that I spoke about earlier. I have been liking this fantasy world and some of these fantasies where these gods kind of play in war, and kind of like with Divine Rivals as well. I just find that aspect entertaining. So I thought this would be a good one to look out for coming out in fall.
We're on to October 28th, and I have the physical copy. It's called Wreck by Catherine Newman. It'll be out in hardcover. It's the author of Sandwich, and it's also the continuing story from the characters of Sandwich. I did enjoy that. It was a very short read, and this one is as well. Very short read. It's the story of Rocky, and the weird thing about this book and the description, though, it says she becomes obsessed with a local accident and the details of it. And I'm not really sure what that means, but it's also, just like Sandwich, it's an exploration of family and the hidden rules that come with it. It's a very quick read. I'm sure I'm going to read it. It's just, I love fiction, and I think this would just be an easy one for me just to pick up and read. So I'm excited about that. I might do an ARC review, who knows, but if you don't see an ARC review, I most likely will go over it at my quarterly review.
So the final book that I have coming out on October 28th is the Book of Autumn by Molly O'Sullivan. And there's a few things that I like about this book, but let me just read the little description at the top. For readers of Adrienne Young, Olive Blake, Aaron Sterling, Hazel Beck, and Leigh Bardugo's Ninth House, a spellbinding debut about ambition, privilege, second chance romance, and ancient magic set in an enchanted school tucked among the red mist of rural New Mexico, where a formidable pair of magicians are summoned to pursue an alleged killer. So, I mean, the mention of Leigh Bardugo, that gets my attention every time. So it says if you like Leigh Bardugo, I have not actually read Adrienne Young. I did read Olive Blake, and I honestly wasn't like really excited about the book I read by Olive Blake. But I did read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo and loved it. There is an enchanted school, so obviously this is a fantasy book, and you've got a school setting, magicians, and they're pursuing a killer. So I don't know, this just sounded kind of fun. I think that it is possibly YA. Let me just look and see here. But I don't know, the description made me think it was YA. I guess maybe because it takes place in a school, even though like the school setting, just like in Fourth Wing, it's kind of a college setting. It's not really YA at all, but that's just what I was thinking when I read it. But it doesn't seem to be listed as YA, so we'll see. I don't know. I thought there's a lot of words that drew my attention in that description, and I thought this might be a good book to keep my eye on. So I am anticipating this coming out October 28th, and hopefully I can get my hands on a copy of it somehow and get it read.
Last but not least, on October 28th, there is one called The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. It's hardcover fantasy. It's the author of one of my favorite books called 10,000 Doors of January. And it's described as a moving genre-defying adventure through time as a reluctant lady knight and a historian with dreams of being a hero will fight to rewrite their tragic fates and finish the greatest legend ever told. And what's especially great about this is, and I do have an electronic ARC for this, is that I'm going to a signing of Alexis Harrow, and I'm going to be able to see her, and she's going to be in Columbus, and it's on my birthday, November 3rd. She's not by herself at this signing, though. She's also with Marissa Meyer, and I haven't read anything by Marissa Meyer. I don't know if I will be able to read something before that happens. Hopefully I will be able to. I am really excited about going to that on my birthday, especially since she wrote one of my favorite books. I am looking forward to reading The Everlasting too. I definitely want to read that before I get to that event. I will hopefully be able to share some of how that event goes. Hopefully I can record or have some pictures and I can share it with you guys. I'll do a vlog on it. All right, I don't have many physical copies this time. Oh, this is about probably the same amount, but I do have some electronic ARCs too, as I mentioned. I have so much that I am looking forward to. I can't wait to read so many of these. What are you guys looking forward to in September and October? I would love for you guys to comment any that you also want to read that we mentioned or something that we didn't put in here, and let us know what you're excited about and anticipating. Our next most anticipated will finish out 2025. It'll be November and December. Look for that right before November starts. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time.